Hello there, and thank you for being here once again to join me on another breakdown and in-depth look at the Bad Batch. I am Scott from Bad 'Cause Dad, and today we're talking about Episode 6, Tribe. We open this episode with the whole crew headed to a beautiful landscape of a large cruiser orbiting a planet with an enormous moon in the background. Seriously, what a shot this was. The cruiser they're landing on belongs to a group of droid smugglers and pirates called the Vanguard Axis. I have to say, this is a brilliant, interesting plot, just waiting for some more light to be shined on it. These aren't your run-of-the-mill standard droids. These droids are smart, calculating, and seem to be quite sentient. This is an awesome element to further dive into, and I hope we see them again at some point. But I digress. Anywho, our crew is there doing yet another mission for Sid. But as usual, something is not quite as it seems, and there is, of course, yet another variable to be sought out. While waiting at the ship with Echo in the hangar, Omega hears some faint noises, and being the adventurous one she is, and still in the heels of Fee's thirst for excitement, she sneaks away to see what the commotion is. Upon arriving at the source of the noise, she sees some of the droids shocking a small Wookiee with shock sticks. Being the selfless one that she is, Omega demands that they leave the Wookiee alone. As they are distracted, the young Wookiee snatches one of their shock sticks and strikes one of the droids, while Omega, without hesitation, pulls out her bow and takes the other one down. As they flee together through the storage crates, more droids come to subdue the resistance. Over the intercom, the droid dealing with Hunter's transaction is alerted to the scuffle. They head over to see if they can put a stop to it, and immediately Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker assume that it's of course got to be Omega, again getting herself into more shenanigans. As the droid crew finds the young Wookiee and Omega, they urge them to surrender, as the Wookiee is worth a lot to them alive. As Boba Fett would say, "He's no good to me dead." The Bat shows up to the scene as well, with guns drawn, not ready to let anything happen to Omega. The young Wookiee reaches out his hands and pulls the inconspicuous weapon attached to the droid's waistside and ignites a beautiful green lightsaber made from the Brylark wood native to his homeworld of Kashyyyk. This is no ordinary Wookiee. This is a Jedi Padawan, and it's none other than Gungi. For anyone who doesn't recognize Gungi or remember where he's from, we first saw him in the Clone Wars episode called The Gathering. This is when a group of younglings led by Master Yoda and Ahsoka Tano journey to Ilum to find kyber crystals and build their first lightsaber. We saw him scattered throughout a few episodes, sometimes just a background cameo, but either way, he was a fan favorite, and especially one of mine, because he is one of the very few Wookiee Jedi, and let's face it, Wookiees are just rad. It was never confirmed if any of those Padawans survived Order 66, so it was incredibly emotional to see that he had made it out alive. It was a nice touch to see him growl at the clones when they arrived, as that PTSD feeling is ever so front and center and really weighs on you as a viewer. As they narrowly escape the firefight, they make it to the Marauder and depart the cruiser. On the ship, Omega, being the kind soul that she is, brings Gungi something to eat as he sits in the back, clearly shaken up by the encounter. To further his agitation, he gets even more defensive when the rest of the crew comes to greet him, and rightfully so. Order 66 is still very fresh in his mind, and the Batch remind Omega that he is right to be afraid and hesitant, as the sight of clones only reopen the scar that is on all the Jedi. I absolutely love the portrayal of the reaction of Jedi from Order 66, because it's such a visceral and emotional reaction that connects my emotions to the pain those characters are going through. They assure him that they are not like those clones, and Omega insists that he is safe and he should eat. I love Omega's tenderness. She is such a caring and warm character, especially for a young kid. Gungi's goal is to return to his homeworld and hopefully find peace and solace there. And the crew, trying to better help people affected by the Empire, are willing to get him home. Dropping out of hyperspace, we arrive at Kashyyyk. Seeing the familiar and beautiful view from space, I'm reminded fondly of all the times we've seen this gorgeous jungle planet before. I remember first seeing it myself in KOTOR, Star Wars Galaxies, Revenge of the Sith, and finally Fallen Order. I always loved the planet, and it holds such a mysterious wonder to it that just completely pulls me in. Suspicious that the Empire might be there, the crew wants to land outside a small settlement and proceed with caution. As they land and start to make their way through the forest, Gungi shows a glimpse of relief and momentary calm, as it has been years since he's been home. He doesn't remember the place that well, as Jedi are usually taken from their homes at a very young age. Although chronologically Gungi is about 60 to 70 years old, he is still just a kid, roughly around 12 to 13. Like Grogu and Yoda's species, Wookiees age a lot slower biologically than other humanoids. As they come up to trees covered in webbing, we get a creature descending on them called the Kinrath. This is a species that I was thrilled to see once again because they were first introduced in KOTOR, and they look exactly the same as they did 20 years ago, but with more pixels, obviously. Seeing these creatures again made me very happy, as Filoni continues to canonize elements of the KOTOR series. Well done, Dave, as if I couldn't love you anymore. It's weird how the older you get, the more you seem to get hit right in the nostalgia bone. Speaking of KOTOR, remember searching for that cantankerous old man, Jolee Bindu, on Kashyyyk? If I could relive that again. Alright, Scott, center yourself. You're not that old yet. We see Gungi calm the Kinrath and see his connection to the planet and the Force. He says if we don't bother them, they won't bother us. Blasting your way through things isn't always the best approach. Wrecker. They arrive at a burnt-down settlement, and Gungi is saddened, losing hope that he has any chance of finding his people. But Omega empathizes with him, saying the Empire destroyed their home too, but they will make sure he finds his people. In the distance, the crew notices the culprit, a mostly Trandoshan squad teamed up with a small regiment of clone troopers equipped with Empire tanks. They are burning down the forest and enslaving the Wookiees. If you don't remember, Trandoshans are notorious for being slavers. They take pride in the hunt, as that is basically the code of their entire species. And as we know from past canon, the Empire utilizes swaths of Wookiee slaves. The whole subplot mission arc in Kashyyyk in Fallen Order was centered around Cal freeing imprisoned Wookiees. Angered by this, Gungi storms in, emotionally charged up, and the squad engages and takes them out easily in a small skirmish. I don't know what it is about seeing Padawans do cool stuff, but I just love it. We know that they are just learners, but it's awesome seeing that many of them are well trained and are anything but helpless. Gungi shows us that there is a reason he has survived this long. They hear creature sounds in the distance, and suddenly, other Wookiees drop down on them on their super sweet cat-like mounts. Knowing that they are not their enemy, the Wookiees take the crew to their village, where we meet their village elder, Yana. They introduce Gungi, and Hunter tells them that they are trying to help him reunite with his tribe, but he can't remember who they are. He says Gungi needs his people. He's been through a lot, reminding us of a common element throughout this story and the tragic nature of many of the Jedi. As we see with Caleb Dune, or as we know him as Kanan Jarrus, many of them were just kids, suddenly thrown into a matter of pure life and death, and they have just been trying to survive since. As the Trandoshans and the clone troopers regroup, we're introduced to their leader, who I'm just going to call Frogman, and the troopers notice the lightsaber marks on the tank. The clones wanting to alert the Empire commanding officers are dissuaded by Frogman, as he says that he wants to bring the Jedi in himself, offering his men 100 Wookiee pelts to find him. Back at the settlement, the batch is plotting how to continue fighting the insurgents and how to possibly find Gungi's family. Sharing a drink with the Wookiees, Wrecker seems like a kid in the candy store and is just ecstatic to be where he is. I think Wrecker may have found his spirit animal, as he seems to fit right in with the Wookiees. Prepping for the battle, the Wookiee villagers and Gungi head outside to a massive tree. They meditate on it, asking the trees for help. As Frogman and his forces are on the move, a lone thermal detonator rolls under the tank, and the batch and the Wookiees unleash their attack. With the tree's help to bring the Kinrath in as allies, the squad draws them towards nest areas. Wrecker and the Wookiees drop down on the tanks and start taking out the Trandoshans. Wrecker, still having a great time, beats his chest and is just thrilled to have found his people. The Kinrath descend onto the enemy forces, and they are quickly overwhelmed. As Frogman chases down Gungi, they engage in a 1v1 battle. While Frogman appears to be somewhat of a worthy adversary, Gungi is quick on his feet and patient, a quality we saw him learn in the Clone Wars episode where Master Yoda instructed him. It's cool to see Yoda's teachings flow through him. The Kinrath find Frogman and web him up Spider-Man style and take him away screaming, "See you later, you green bastard." As the batch and Wookiees head home, Wrecker is once again having a fun time drinking their ale, and even Echo partakes, letting down his guard momentarily. Hunter, Tech, and Yana notice Gunji and Omega outside with their hands on the tree, meditating, raising my suspicion once again that Omega might possess some dormant force sensitivity. That still remains to be seen. Hunter reminds us again that they're just kids, and that it's so tragic that this galaxy doesn't let them be just that. Yana says when a young one leaves, the trees weep. When they return, they sing. As this child has found his new home, perhaps one day we will all find a new path. Hunter says that hopefully one day, if they do find that path, it's one far away from war. Roll credits. Personally, this was my favorite episode thus far in Season 2, mainly because of Gunji. It's also the first time we've seen another Jedi since Caleb Dune in the very first episode in Season 1. I feel as though this arc isn't over yet though, and I hope it's not the last we see of Gunji. While this episode doesn't fully push the main narrative any further along, it is once again doing a magnificent job of bringing the overarching story together, and the world building is just simply exceptional. The pieces of the puzzle have their own specialness, and they come together more and more. And my prediction is that the back half of this season will only get much, much better. Thank you all once again for tuning in. See anything I missed? Please share in the comments, and let's continue this conversation. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and tune in for more content and live shows in the future. May the Force be with you, my young Padawans.